years ago. So this was the red bag. This is done. I thought it was. Yes. The rest were on the table. Oh, the table.
Hey, welcome everybody. I'll give it a few moments to let everyone join before we kick this webinar off. Thanks. All right, and as you join, I'd love if you would drop in the comments maybe one word or emoji that describes your 2025. And we'll go ahead and get started here. For those who have not met me yet, my name is Matthew Dooley, and I am the partner and CEO at Dooley Social Studio. We're an award-winning social media studio here in Cincinnati, Ohio. We have an incredible team whose focus is to deliver real impact for relational brands across the country, from Gold Star and the Christ Hospital to the Marzetti Company and Joico, and many, many others. At Dooley, we believe that in order to plan ahead well, you have to look back. And that's exactly what Stephany is going to do today. She's going to look into what happened in 2025 across the social landscape, what we should take with us into 2026, and maybe what we should kind of loosen our grip on and discard, what's no longer working anymore. And then, of course, we're going to help you get ready for 2026 as well. So this is another edition of Stephany's wildly popular BloomScroll series. If you've participated in a webinar or seen some of her content in our emails or on our social, but her whole focus is spotlighting how brands can respond to and participate in both social and cultural trends. And so make sure you stay to the end. We're going to be offering a free ticket, VIP ticket actually, to our next CreatorCon event in 2026. And Steph is also going to deliver a custom trends report tailored to your specific brand, but you have to be here at the end in order to win. So, Steph, I'll let you take it from here, and I'll be back on later to announce our winner of the giveaway. Thanks, everybody.
Hi, everybody. I'm glad to be back for another edition of BloomScroll. Let me share my screen with you all. So like Matthew said, I am here at Dooley. Just a little bit about me before we get started, in case you weren't on the last one. I have over 8 years of experience with all things social. So I've kind of built my career in helping brands tell their stories authentically and connect with their audience in a real way. I really believe that social should be social first. And so that is kind of the basis of BloomScroll. So I started this as something internal for our team, as a way to share what was going on the platforms, what's changing, what's working, what trends I was seeing. And now we've brought it here live and on our social platforms to kind of share these insights with you guys. So I'm really excited to talk about what's happened this year and what's to come. So we're going to start off with a fun little game as like a way to look back on 2025. We're going to talk about all of the big social shifts we saw this year and how that's going to affect what we see in 2026. So to kick off, we're going to play a game called Guess That Trend. So I'm going to give you guys 3 clues. I'm going to give you a minute, or I'm going to give you guys 3 clues, and then I'm going to give you a second to guess what trend I'm alluding to with these 3 clues. And I want you guys to be super active in the chat and let me know what you think. I think you'll get most of these. So I'm excited to see what we're thinking through. So our first trend, our first clue is tech. So a trend that had to do with tech. And when I say trend, this could also have been like a moment in culture. Our second clue is Jumbotron. I'm starting to see some responses here. Jumbotron was the second clue. And our last clue is entanglements. Yes, you guys look like you're going in the right direction. We're talking about the astronomer CEO Coldplay scandal. which was a moment so viral. It was parodied in real life. I think still to this day, I don't think you can go to a concert or a game without seeing someone parody this on the Kiss Cam. It even had its own moment on SNL. It had its own sketch. And this was everywhere in July. You could not escape this. And what's crazy is that the company Astronomer even took this as a moment to kind of show some cultural fluency. So they had a lot of eyes on them for the first time in a long time. And they took this opportunity rather than like continue to focus on what had happened with these employees, to let people know what even is Astronomer. They brought in Gwyneth Paltrow for this brand building moment. And so if you're not familiar with this kind of lore, Gwyneth Paltrow is the ex-wife or ex-partner. They had a mutual uncoupling of the lead singer of Coldplay. And so it was a little bit of shade towards Coldplay, but it was a way for them to actually explain, like, we are the company that you are seeing everywhere. And so I thought it was very smart of them to use this moment and use all the eyes on them to do some brand building. All right, let's get into our next trend. The next one, the number 12. I think that some people may have gotten it just based on the number 12. But the next clue, podcast announcement. Podcast announcements. And then let's see, our last clue. I think this one will give it away. English teacher. Yes, I see Michelle already got it. New Heights. I see that in the chat. We're talking about Taylor Swift's album announcement and her album release. So this was a moment in 2025 that was so viral, it even made people in our industry start to question if brands should still jump on these viral moments. I think after the initial podcast announcement, there was probably 2 weeks of discourse on LinkedIn. Should brands be taking the opportunity to like slap orange sparkles all over their branding? Or should we get out of the way and let announcements have their moments and we as a culture move on? I read plenty of think pieces on this. I will say I loved that this was an opportunity for brands to show off more of their cultural fluency and like the Swiftie knowledge that was on their team. There was brands that did just put glitter on an asset and that was it. But then I'm really proud of the work that came out of our team at Dooley, where we had our own playlist come out for Gold Star, just like Taylor Swift released a playlist ahead of her album. And how we looked into the life of a midwife with a Christ Hospital, just like Taylor was exploring the life of a showgirl. So I thought this was a really fun way for people to show off the like just knowledge that exists on their team and kind of humanize things a little bit. And then our last one, I think this one might be the hardest, but we'll see. Our first clue is Madonna. So what moment did Madonna have this year? Our second clue is Muppets. I hope this gets it for some people. And then our last clue is the carousel format. So any guesses? It's a little quiet in the chat. I think you guys are deliberating. I'll give you guys a second. Okay, we'll get into it. Pepe the Prawn on TikTok. I hope that you guys remember this because this was a long time ago. This was in January at the very start of the year. This was a moment on TikTok where everyone was laughing with each other, not at each other, which has not happened a lot this year. So if you're not familiar with Pepe the Prawn, huh? Oh, no, they're not. Can you guys see my slides? Someone? Yes, okay. So Pepe the Prawn, this was such a fun moment. So the context here is that there was a Madonna song that was over the picture of Pepe the Prawn, and people were, oh. Let's try again.
Hey, Steph, I took over your slide, so I'll scroll through so you can keep talking.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Thanks, Eric.
I'm like, Matthew, are you sharing your screen?
Yeah, I'm sharing. Can you guys see it or no? Can you see it on your end?
Like, I can't see it. Mhm.
They said that they can see it, but Steph can't.
Okay. So
You just wanna go in there.
we're gonna go in the same room together. Sorry, everybody. This will just take a second.
Mhm. Should we go back?
Where were we at?
The last one. Next one. Next one. Oh, sorry, forward to Pepe. Pepe. All right. I hope that now, since you guys are seeing it, maybe you are remembering what this trend was. So, Pepe the Prawn, there was a Madonna song that went over the image, and people on TikTok were using this image to share their most embarrassing stories. If you remember, there was even one of a girl who had put olive oil in her hair and slipped in her basement. Her dad thought there was an intruder. The SWAT team got called to their house. Thank you. And so this was a crazy moment on TikTok. And even though I don't think I saw a lot of brands jump on this one, it was just such a fun time. Like I said, this was a moment where we're all laughing with each other and not at each other. And so that was your first round iteration of Guess That Trend. And the reason I love doing things like this is because it's really goes to show how we can measure the years in these moments. Like it's amazing to think, wow, that happened in January. It felt like such a long, long time ago. And astronomer even feels like a long time ago now, even though it was only a couple months. So now we're going to get into our 2025 social shifts. And so kicking off with, can I try? Kicking off with serialized content. And so when I'm talking about serialized content, we got to go back a little bit. So what we've been hearing for years is that video continues to dominate how we spend our time on social. You've heard this before, video is king, and it's been king for a long time. So we know that 90% of consumers are watching short form video content daily. And we know that 60% of the time people are spending on social is spent watching video. At least an hour a day is spent watching video on social. And so it's not a surprise that video remains king. But how do we win? That means we're producing a lot of content. If you're a marketer, you know this. You're producing a lot of reels, a lot of content. It feels like it's fleeting. It feels like the lifespan is really, really short. And it feels like you're having to cut through a lot of noise to make an impact. So how do we win in this era? And I think the answer I saw this year is one that has really excited me about the future of content, and that is serialized content. Episodic content is another word for it. And the greatest example of this I think I have seen is Miss Risa Tisa's series called Who the F Did I Marry? This was a 50-part TikTok series in which this woman, in a very authentic way, almost like a FaceTime call, told the 50-part story of how she married a man that she barely knew and everything that happened after the fact. So this is really a return to form for creators and for brands, because something that we know is that episodic content has worked not just in 2025, but for decades, right? I bet that many of you on this webinar right now are watching season 5 of a show that started nearly 10 years ago. So we keep tuning in to see what's going to happen next, what's happening with our favorite characters. And so we know that episodic content worked. It's worked on TV since the beginning. It's worked with streaming, even when they keep us waiting a long time for episodes. And now it's working with social. We're seeing it happen with creators, with brands. And the really great part about this is that, unlike logging on to Netflix and trying to decide what show you're going to start and deciding if you're going to finish the first episode because it didn't capture your attention, the algorithm takes care of the decision fatigue, right? Your algorithm knows what you want to see. It's going to put a series in front of you, and then you're going to decide, I want to know more about this, and then I go back and watch that whole playlist in one sitting, or I'm kind of interested in this, I'll follow this person and see their content whenever it comes up on my page. So it's really taking care of that decision fatigue. You don't have to decide if you want to start the show. The show is just placed before you. Serialized content also gives users an incentive to return. So rather than just seeing one piece of like evergreen brand building content, You get invested into a story, you decide you want to follow that person, you send it to someone, you show some engagement with it, which indicates to the algorithm that you want to see more of it. So when the next episode of Who the F Did I Marry comes out, it's going to be on your page. I think when this series originally came out, I didn't follow Miss Risatisa until like the 12th episode, but I was getting almost like instant updates when they were happening because it was everywhere. And so I just think this is such a great way for brands to build affinity around themselves, and by creating a lore, right? With her specific series, she told us her background, she told us her lore. And so each episode I was checking in to see what was going to happen next. And now that the series is over, I'm still checking in to see like, when is her book coming out? When is her Netflix deal going to happen? And in a very similar way, brands are building a lore around themselves and their characters. So this can be something that's fully fictional, or it can be more of a like reality TV style with segments that people can come to expect. So one of my favorite creators on TikTok that's creating this serialized content is an account called Two People Cooking, and they post one episode a week on Friday night. And it is quite literally two chefs who live together who are cooking. There is sometimes a birthday segment. There is sometimes like a beverage of the night segment. But every Friday night, I know I'm tuning in to watch Two People Cooking. And there's a lot of people doing this. So is anyone familiar with the group chat? Let me know in our chat if you're familiar with this creator. If not, to give you some background, this creator wrote essentially a season of a TV show. And rather than try to get it made, she decided to cast herself in every single role. I think there's like 6 characters. She cast herself in every single role, and she plays every single part. Each character has their own hairstyle, their own way of speaking. They have their own like color that they wear, so you can indicate who is talking. And you're quite literally going through a group chat of 6 women who have like interrelational drama. It's very exciting to watch. If you like reality TV, I highly recommend checking out the group chat. And this has gotten so big that she even got a song license by Charlie Puth for the 2nd season. So Charlie Puth gave her permission to use one of the songs. She has ads show up in the group chat. So she treats it like a proper TV show. There's commercial breaks. She's had ads from Domino's. I believe like Marriott Hotels has even flown her out to shoot some of her commercials on their properties. And so this has become an entire production that she's filming and producing on her phone and writing herself. InStyle has also come out with their own series called The Intern. This had a really big moment this year because they just released season 2. And so they're changing out the interns with each season, just like you would change out interns during a year of work. And what I thought is interesting, if you go on InStyle's website, they actually have put all the videos together on a landing page. So they want you to watch a whole season of The Intern and see what's happening there. And then we have kind of like this in-between space with brands like Built. So Built is a brand where you can earn rewards on paying your rent. And rather than release their own episodic content on their profile, as they're trying to brand build, they have created a whole new profile for their series. It's called Roomies. And the product is not the hero of the story. Sometimes the Roomies use Built, sometimes they talk about Built or they met someone who's used it, but it's not in every single piece of content. And Built's stance on this is like, we are quite literally just trying to get in front of an audience that is not familiar with us. And the best way they found to do this is the success through this series. And what I love about this is that brands can do this. They can build their own content, or you can find a creator and appear in their content. It kind of can take a lift off of you. It helps with planning, right? You know, you're going to get through all parts of a story. The insights can help build stronger organic content. And for a brand like Built, who has their own page where they're gathering all these insights, they can use that down the road for stronger retargeting. And then the last thing I love about this is that brands are seeing compounding reach, because every single episode brings back the viewers who already love the content, and it brings new viewers as well. So moving on into the right creators and the right activations being critical. So we've all seen the rise in the creator or influencer economy. And this is really a year where brands have gone full in on creators. I've seen so much brand content from influencers for brands People have invested a lot in this. Unilever announced that they were going to spend half of their media dollars working with 20 times more creators than they have in the past. But the general sentiment around creators, around influencers, has started to like neutralize a little bit. And so what became really important this year was choosing the right creators and the right activations. And if you didn't have the right mix, it could be make it or break it for the brand. And I want to give you guys an example. So we have Poppy, which I would say is a leader in really the social space, in the creator space. When we talk internally here at Dooley about the brands that inspire us, Poppy comes up a lot. This year for the Super Bowl, yes, Jake Shane, yes, this year for the Super Bowl, they hired 32 of the biggest influencers, like people with millions of followers. And this was in like cohesion with their Super Bowl ad. So there was a halftime show ad that aired with this influencers. A lot of the same influencers were featured in the social campaign. Each one of them received a vending machine that was stocked full of Poppy. It was custom. They were going to keep it for the weekends. They could use it at their Super Bowl parties. This is really in line with what Poppy had already been doing. They were known for these huge activations specifically for influencers. The creators made videos that were authentic to their personal brand. So Poppy didn't spend a lot of time making their own content of like how they delivered the vending machines. They really let the creators have their own voice, put their own unique spin on it, and be authentic to themselves. But the campaign still received a lot of backlash. So this was a time in which a lot of people, the sentiment is like, we're struggling as a country, the economy is struggling, people are struggling to make ends meet, to put food on the table. And really people felt like it was tone deaf to give people who already are mostly wealthy and already have a lot of privilege, to give them more free stuff so that they could share it with their other friends who are wealthy. People did not like this. And what I thought was interesting is that the backlash was not just reserved for Poppy. The backlash also happened with the influencers. It happened on their pages from their own followers. People saying, why are these being sent to out-of-touch influencers, not universities and sororities? This made me want to buy Olipop, which is Poppy's main competitor, another prebiotic soda. I don't even really like it. I just don't like Poppy. And these were kind of the more mild ones that I saw. And unfortunately for Poppy, what maybe they didn't know is that behind the scenes, Olipop had taken a step back from their influencer marketing, from their creator marketing, and they had been spending a lot of time investing in sending out PR to real customers, people who maybe had a bad experience with the product, people who wanted to try the product and just like never got around to purchasing it. People who held like family dinners for their community and they wanted to give them an opportunity to have Olipop at the dinners. So Olipop had spent a lot of time already investing in a more community aspect. And so when the time came, those Olipop community influencers were able to get in there and leave comments on this content saying things like PR boxes for real customers is what I say. And so unfortunately, this pushback, it wasn't just like a public flop of their influencer campaign that they had spent a lot of money on. It was also that it pushed people right into the arms of their competitor. And who was already gifting to their community instead of creators. And so it really just shows you got to have the right creator and the right activation. And another great example of that is Keith Lee. Let me know in the chat if you guys are familiar, because I'm always surprised with who is and isn't. And I think Keith Lee is one of the most wholesome creators that's out there right now. And this is a great example of when you have the right creator and you have the right activation, your audience is not just engaged, your audience is activated. I'm hip to Keith Lee. I love seeing you guys give him love. So Keith Lee had an opportunity this year to partner with the restaurant point of sale system Toast. If you're not familiar with Toast, you've probably used it. If you've ever checked out at a restaurant or you've been handed the little machine to put your card into, you've probably used Toast. And so they partnered together to give away over $150,000 to small businesses. And this is really what Keith Lee is known for. And so Toast was tapping into what we call the Keith Lee effect. And so if you're not familiar, what Keith Lee does is he visits small businesses all over the country. He's even gone international now. He visits businesses where like empty parking lots, no one is there. He has his family go in so that no one gives him any special treatment. He orders a ton of food, tries it in his car, and if the food is good and they have a positive customer service experience, he will then reveal himself to the business, and he will generally leave thousands of dollars of tips for the employees. And he will also leave thousands of dollars for that business to then give away food like for the next day, because most likely what happens is that there is a line out the door when he posts his videos featuring these businesses. So Toast decided we're going to tap into the Keith Lee effect. They let Keith pick the first two businesses that he wanted to give $50,000 to. But then they also tapped into what is most powerful about Keith, and that is his audience. So when Keith Lee travels around the world, he has people who are local to those cities tell him where he should visit, the places that they love that they don't see anyone going to. And so they aligned with his niche as a creator, and they allowed him to activate his following to choose the final winner. And so if you nominated someone, you had to make a video, you had to tag Toast, you had to tag Keith Lee and their like campaign hashtag. And then the winner who was chosen would get $50,000. They would get a year of the Toast service for their business, and the nominator would get $25,000. So there was a huge incentive to nominate businesses, and it was a huge incentive for businesses to want to get nominated. And ultimately, what they ended with was Toast didn't make a ton of content about this. If you go on the Toast Instagram and Toast TikTok, you're not going to see a lot of Keith Lee content. What you are going to see if you search Toast on TikTok is hundreds and hundreds of entries from businesses who don't already use Toast, getting familiar with that point of sale system because they wanted to get nominated, putting themselves out there for the nomination, and hundreds of consumers who maybe have used Toast and not realized it, getting familiar with the brand because they wanted to nominate their favorite business and they wanted to be eligible for that $25,000. And so this had a great impact for Toast. They got in front of people who they would have never gotten in front of, and they got to show up as a community partner for small businesses rather than someone else who was just trying to sell to another small business. And you can see in these comments, people loved this. Top tier partnership. I love how Keith and Toast elevated this queen, plus 17 million new followers. This is absolutely amazing. What a great way to give back to the community. This is what happens when the right person gets great power. And so this was a huge opportunity for Toast. This is a great success. And like I said, when you have the right creator and you have the right activation, your audience is not just engaged, they're activated. So moving into like our last shift for 2025, I want to talk about the shift towards the DMs. So I feel like as marketers, we've all kind of been feeling this for a while, and that is our engagement going down, but sends becoming really important and shares becoming really important. We know that social users are most likely to share content that they agree with via DM. So 44% of users answered that if they agreed with the content or the perspective of a post, they would share that before they would hit the like button or even comment. And so we know that users are prioritizing more niche communities and privacy, right? I think it's way more common now for us to like participate in discourse in a DM rather than in the comments. I even feel like the sentiment towards like participating in the comments or tagging your friends publicly has started to change. And because this is happening to us as consumers, we're more worried about our privacy. We're more wanting to participate in smaller communities. Platforms have updated the algorithms to prioritize these actions. So that is why we're seeing sends become more important than comments or watch time in how the algorithm is weighing the content. And it's not just the algorithm that these platforms are changing. They want to continue catering to this behavior. So I'm sure you guys saw like Instagram broadcast channels. I think I get a notification every day. This brand, this influencer has invited you to their Instagram broadcast channel. If you're not familiar with what that is, it's essentially a group chat where a brand or an influencer can talk to a community. There's no dialogue, but they can, they can do polls. They can send like special content. Was it this month, last month, Instagram rearranged the bottom buttons in the app. And so rather than having the share content button in the center, indicating that that is the main action we're supposed to take, that DMs button is now in the center telling us that is the action that Instagram thinks that we want to take. I was so surprised when I got on there and saw that, but it makes a lot of sense. They've also introduced pinned chats on TikTok. For the longest time, you couldn't send a group chat, but they introduced that this year. They've also introduced streaks to encourage people to continue to send with their friends. And the creator DM tools are improving. So we're continuing to see these platforms roll out stronger tools for people to harness the power of the DMs. We're spending a lot more time in these niche communities. So we've also seen this year the rise of like Blue Sky and Substack, where you can customize the topics that you want to see and really participate in more of a conversation with a smaller group of people rather than just opening yourself up to the internet at large. I'm curious, are any of you guys using Substack either personally or for your brand? Let me know. I know I've recently gotten into it and I'm really enjoying it. But yeah, brands are embracing the shift. So I feel like a lot of times as brands, we're kind of slow to the shift. But I think that this time everyone's just kind of embraced it. It almost feels like a natural next step. So brands have taken the opportunity to activate those broadcast channels on Instagram, and they really meet with their most loyal followers in this space. I've joined a couple, especially for creators that I really like. And what's cool is that the channels are being used to give sneak peeks on upcoming content, and to offer like updates on when some things are going to be released, to offer an opportunity to vote on future content. And so people can vote like this image or this image or this video or this video. I've even seen, going back to episodic content, people voting on a storyline that they want to see. And then providing exclusive behind the scenes perspectives. So I think it's so interesting. I see a lot of you guys are saying that you do subscribe to some Substacks. And I agree. I really enjoy seeing creators using it. And it does feel like an evolution of a blog. I think it's fun and it's nice to get a little newsletter, and it doesn't feel as like abrasive as an Instagram notification can feel sometimes. And so I've really been enjoying it. All right, let's get into 2026. It feels crazy that this year has just flown by the way that it has. But we're here, and as a lot of things have changed, let's talk about what this means for us as marketers. So the first thing is employee generated content. So UGC, we'll still see her, but the main hero is going to be EGC. So here's what I think. I think that as we're all looking for authenticity and we're looking for how do we tell a real story, the most authentic thing about your brand is the people. It's always going to be the people, because that's what people can relate to. So we know that 86% of consumers say that authenticity is key when they're choosing which brands to support. Throughout this 2026 section, you're going to hear me say authenticity a lot. It's what people are searching for. I think we're living in a world where we don't know what is real and what's not, and people want to see something different. And so users are connecting to employees as like real representative of the brand. So it's almost like saying, wow, if you're willing to work for this company and like put that out there publicly, you must really like it. There must be something there for me. And so what you saw in this last video, see if this will play again, this is from Fleet Feet. And they're showing like who on staff would survive Michael Myers. This video goes on and you see all of the different employees. They're wearing different shoes. They're wearing the shoes that they would pick to run from Michael Myers. So the cool thing about Fleet Feet is that they've recognized that EGC is not just a tactic. This is a full-on strategy. 25% of Fleet Feet's content is EGC. Their organic impressions have increased 192% year over year, as well as their organic engagements. And the way that their social platforms work is that every city that has a Fleet Feet has its own Instagram. And then they also have like a main verified Instagram account for Fleet Feet. And so all of these different cities all around the country, all of their employees are posting. And then for the main account, those minor cities are all feeding into this main account. And so they're really getting like maximum use out of the content. If a video does really well here at Fleet Feet Cincy, you're probably going to see it on the main Fleet Feet page. And this has been working for them for a little over a year now. And it's why I think we're going to continue to see a rise in this. They're not the only ones. Another shoe brand that has been doing this, Foot Locker, has implemented a global EGC program, like worldwide EGC. If you look over here on the right, this is a screenshot of what their feed looked like last night. And we have 9 posts. 5 of them were employee generated. So the majority of the content that they're putting out, the most engaging content, the most views, employee generated. And what's really interesting with Foot Locker is that they recognize that this is not just as easy as the social media person walking into the store saying, who wants to film with me today? This has to be cross-departmental to work. So they're working with the brand team, they're working with HR, they're working with store operations, all of these employees who are featured in this content, they've opted in ahead of time to be featured. They're briefed on what they want to see. So the main person working on this program is developing like a monthly, a quarterly brief of like, this is the content I need, the topics we need to hit. Here are the things that are acceptable, unacceptable. Here are the audios that are approved. Here are the trends that are approved. They're sending that out cross-departmentally. And then they're kind of seeing what they get back. It goes through a quality assessment and then it hits Foot Locker's page. And all of this is happening pretty fast because a lot of this stuff is still very much on trend and like socially relevant. So I think that the fact that they've pulled this off globally is incredible. It takes so much coordination. It takes, let's be honest, it takes a lot of coordination to go into a single location and get one person to film with you. So the way that they've been able to activate hundreds of employees is something to be admired. But I think it's worth noting that this is not just like a side thing for these employees as well. They're being compensated for their effort. So they have, again, opted in beforehand. I think I've even heard of other companies having like a little audition for people who want to be part of the social team in this capacity. And then whether it's through money or additional benefits or discounts, time off, they're being compensated for these efforts because this is a huge value to the brand, right? It takes a lot of time to make content. So if you can activate a lot of people to do it, you can get a lot of variety really quickly and almost never run out of things to post. So let me know what you guys think about EGC. I'm curious, what brands have you seen that are doing this well in the chat? Anybody? Pixley. Chick-fil-A does have really good EGC for their specific locations. Orange Theory. I have heard that that is a really good one. I'll have to look more at what they're doing over there. Oh, someone said Gold Star. That's a win for our team. They've worked really hard on that. The Gold Star team has. And then Rascals Diapers. All right, I'm going to check these out for inspiration because I know internally we're also discussing like how do we get the most out of EGC for our clients. So, all right, let's move on to our next shift for 2026. Let's talk about smaller communities and bigger impact. So I said it already, you're going to hear a lot of authenticity talk from me. Users are searching for authenticity. And just like what happened with Poppy, they're not finding it with these big creators. They're finding it in smaller creators. So 92% of consumers are going to trust a recommendation from a friend or family member over a brand. That's not surprising at all. And here's the thing about small creators, that parasocial relationship with someone who has 1,000 followers and who still has a job and their lifestyle looks more like yours is going to be a lot stronger than that parasocial relationship with someone whose life feels almost unattainable. Right? They're shopping in a whole different bracket. And so I think that's why we've seen, it says 33% more brand collaborations with micro influencers year over year. And if we're looking at engagement, the best engagement is coming from these small creators who have the time to respond to every single comment and engage with every single thing that's happening. And so smaller creators are being perceived as way more relatable, way more trustworthy. I do want to preface, I don't think that's the end of the mega creator, right? Celebrity partnerships are still going to happen. Mega influencer partnerships are still going to happen. Our team participated in bringing a couple of these to life this year. We're really proud of that work. It's had a huge impact for the brands that we've worked on. But I think it really matters as a brand, like what is the KPI? What is the goal? And if the goal is to reach a large amount of people just across the board, maybe someone with the biggest audience is the right choice for you. If the goal is to connect strongly with a variety of people, maybe it looks more like a smaller creator. And so here are some things I want you guys to consider as we go into 2026. What if you, instead of doing a campaign with one big creator and spending all your money there, you split those dollars against a lot of nano creators, people who are coming from all different audiences, walks of life, and really honed in on the awareness on a lot of different demographics. we had the opportunity here at Dooley to work on a hair brand that traditionally aimed towards women who were over the age of 40 and were trying to cover grays. And they came to us and said, we have a product that's really more universal. And so they had an influencer budget. We worked together and we came up with a list of smaller creators. So we had moms who were focused on just like getting through the day. We had women who their whole niche was beauty for women over the age of 40. We had girls who were like just coming out of college, living a single life, like all different walks of life focused on one product, creating content that was authentic to them, to their very niche audience. And we saw a lot of great awareness from this, and we were able to hit so many different people in one campaign. And so I do think this is a great opportunity if the KPI is right for you. The other part is establishing long-term partnerships with nano creators to build credibility. So the one thing that I don't want to see is like, I partnered one time with this person and we never hear from them again. We never see that brand show up again. Because a lot of times I get suspicious, like, did they just pay you and like you put the video up and, you know, a year from now you're going to take it down? So that is always what makes me wonder, is this truly a real partnership? And I think what people get excited about is when you've heard a creator talk about a brand or purchase something again and again, and then they get the opportunity to work with them. It shows that there is like a true meaningful relationship, and that even though that recommendation is now has that paid sponsor tag to it, it's still authentic, it's still real, and you can still trust it. And then the last part is that if you go with this direction of using nano creators, make sure that you're working really closely with that creator to develop unique ways to surprise and delight their audience. So whether that looks like a special discount code, a in-person activation, you know, gifting specifically for them, maybe the influencer gets extra gifting that she can give away to her followers, or they can give away to their followers, something that is unique and specific to their audience. It's going to build that brand affinity and again solidify that relationship and that partnership. And then our last one, we're going to talk about really quickly social as search. So I think we're going to hear a lot more about this, and while the other two are kind of happening now, you can start to work those things into your 2026 strategies. I think social as search is kind of something that's unraveling. So let's just get a little bit into it. And I'm open to questions. We'll have a little bit of time for questions at the end. So we're all checking social for the answers. We know that consumers are going to social to find more visual and more authentic answers to their questions. I'm going to be honest, if I have a question about like where I'm going to go eat or the product I'm going to invest money into, I'm going to TikTok and I'm going to see if someone else has already done it. I'm sure that you have done this as well. And so while we still see Google as like the big dog at the top where we're going for search, you're also seeing Facebook and Instagram, TikTok, ChatGPT over Target, even over Reddit, which I think was a really big surprise to me because that's usually the second place that I'm going. I think it's amazing that now you can find the answers to these questions and get a real life review, a real life experience, and it feels a lot more trustworthy again than when you go on Google and you just see the sponsored products at the top. We know that Meta implemented Meta AI into its platforms this year, and of its billion of active users, over 25% of these users are using Meta AI to find their resources and the products that they want to use. And so it's an opportunity for us as marketers to start to optimize our social profiles, optimize the content that we're making for social's SEO capabilities. There's kind of been a long debate, is the hashtag over? Some people say yes, some people say no. I think what we're seeing is that specifically Meta, especially TikTok, have really spent a lot of time honing that SEO habit that we're all having. And I think the hashtag still works in the regard that like you're putting that keyword in the content. But I think what we're going to shift more to is like these keywords and these searchable terms being hidden in our content. So let's talk about that a little bit. The next thing is just optimize. It's all about optimization. So you want to optimize your bio for topic discovery. And so I want you guys to think about, what is your niche? What is your location if it's relevant to how people engage with your business, and your expertise? And so we did this recently with a client with our client Marzetti, where we updated their bio. And here's the thing, some people are going to search, what is the best ranch? And so if you go to Marzetti's bio, you will see that Marzetti won best ranch from a publication, and we have that in there because we want people to be able to search and find us when they're looking. And so whatever you can put in your bio that is identifying to you, if someone is, if you're, especially if you already have an SEO strategy and you're using terms, try and find ways that you can sneak those into your bio because it's going to be really helpful. The next part is using keywords on screen, in caption, and then my little pro tip is behind the scenes. So on screen, that means that the text that's on your reel or on your carousel or in your graphic should be related to a search term. We want these keywords in here. If you can't make them work in the content, let's try to make them work in the caption. This kind of goes back to the hashtag debate of like, what if you just can't make it work? Isn't it just worth it to put the hashtag on there? I think so. I have a client that is a woman-owned business, and on every single piece of content that we create, it's hashtag woman-owned business or Cincinnati woman-owned business, because I want people to, when they're looking to support these businesses, to find hers. And then back to my pro tip, the behind the scenes keyword. So I don't know if this is like a popularized thing now. I think maybe it is, but when you're making content, specifically if you're making a reel, let's say that just doesn't make sense to put keywords in the physical piece of content. What you can do is go into edits or whatever, TikTok edits, whatever you're using behind the scenes to make it, as long as it's native to the platform. Type in your keyword. So like, let's say, again, I have a client that's a woman-owned business. Didn't make sense for me to put it on the video. And so I'm going to type on the video, women-owned business, female-owned business, family-owned business, just the keywords that I would want someone to search for. I'm going to make that text super, super tiny on the edit, and then I'm going to swipe it off screen. And when you go and you look at the layers on your video, you're going to see that that text, even though it's not visible anywhere in the video, it still exists, which means that when it goes into the algorithm and Instagram's weighing it amongst everything else, it's still going to read female-owned business, woman-owned business, family-owned business. And when someone starts to search that, now we get to count towards that. And so that's kind of my hack that I do sometimes if I just can't make it work. And I think it's a good one. And then the last thing here is utilizing tools like TikTok Creator Search Insights. Let me know in the comments if you guys are already familiar with TikTok Creator Search Insights, because if you're not, I think it's worth going back sometime in the future, maybe in an email, a future webinar, and talking a lot about this tool because I think it's very powerful. So TikTok has released TikTok Creator Search Insights, which means you can go right now in TikTok, you can search the words Creator Search Insights, and it will pop up with a little tab. And when you go in there, you're able to see like what your audience is searching for. And then I think the most powerful thing is you're able to see the content gap, which means your audience is searching for, it's wintertime. Let's say your audience is searching for hot chocolate recipes and they are just not finding what they're looking for. TikTok's taking note, like, shoot, we need more hot chocolate recipes. And so it's going to let you know here in the content gap, hey, people are searching for these specific terms, and there's not enough there. And the suggestion for you is then you should make content that fills the gap, right? Because it's coveted. It's what people are looking for. And so I think this is a really, really powerful tool, especially if you aren't finding these insights anywhere else. If you don't have like a solidified SEO plan, if you are still feeling like you're in need of more like consumer insights, I think this is a great place to start. It's maybe not your whole strategy, but again, it's a great place to start. All right, that's all I have for you guys. I think we have like 5 minutes for questions. Any questions from anybody? Thank you all for looking back with me and looking forward as well.
And while those questions are rolling in, we're in the same room together, the two of us, because we had tech difficulties. So thanks for everybody's patience. I do have a quick question. Parasocial, I love that you use that term. Can you explain it?
Yes.
For people who may not know.
Yes. So parasocial is describing the relationship that you feel like you have with someone who you're consuming their life, right? You're watching their content or you see them on screen in a movie. You know things about them, but they don't know anything about you. And so it feels like, oh, I thought all this information about their life. I know the decisions they would make. But in reality, you've never met this person. You're not really friends. You're just people who follow each other or you follow them. So that's parasocial.
That's great.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys again so much for joining me today. Again, looking back with me and looking forward. I think we're in for a really exciting 2026. So much has shifted in our industry, and I'm excited to see what comes next. And I'm going to hand it back to Matthew.
And I'll keep driving. Just a couple things I want to mention. One is, if you have not heard about our content sprints happening next week, well, guess what? They're sold out because they're going to be amazing. We've got 8 brands lined up, but we have opened up a wait list. So if you're interested in partnering with our creative team, but also local area creators to really accelerate the effectiveness of your content for the new year, go ahead and scan that QR code, sign up. There's no cost, no obligation yet. Just stay tuned for when those spots open up, likely in Q1 of 2026, assuming all goes well next week. So I'll leave that up just for another second. So make sure you scan that. Also, while we're here, I'd love to get any feedback you have about these webinars we've been doing, whether it's Amanda or Steph or Lindsay. We have a heart for educating our community and not kind of hoarding information, but really sharing it. We think that all ships rise. So please let us know if there's things that we could be doing better, if there's topics that you want to explore that you're just fascinated by, but don't have all the answers to. We'd love to dig in. This is our world. Every single day we live and breathe it. So let us know, shoot me an email, and we'd love to cover that topic, maybe even pull you into a panel session. So let's have fun with it. And then I do want to select a winner. And because I didn't have access to my, this is going to make a bunch of tearing noises. We're going to select one winner of, what are they winning again? A ticket to CreatorCon.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're also going to get a custom trends report from Stephany. So that would be custom or tailored to your specific brand. And so I'm tearing people's names as we speak. Give me a little bit of patience here. Steph has her fan going, so it's like blowing paper off of the table. This is how we like to end our webinars, real nice and awkward. So feedback on that is welcome as well. Okay, and then I'm going to hold these, and then you can pick the winner. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. Okay, I'll shuffle these up. So they're in my hand, you can see. Then pick one, and then you can announce it if you want.
All right. Sarah Petracca.
Petracca, yeah, of course, from Drees. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. And stay tuned to the new year when we offer more and more educational opportunities. And happy holidays, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.